Oh, okay, happy Thursday. Last day of listening to me on a video for you guys in class. I'm very excited to get back tomorrow. Turn to page 12 in your packet if you haven't already. I posted that in Google Classroom, but I'm not sure how many of you guys are really checking it ahead of class. So today, all we're doing, we're kind of going to do the easy part before I come back and I kind of teach not really the hard part. I kind of teach you a shortcut tomorrow. Today we're going to be talking about x and y intercepts of graphs, and from an equation, how can you find the x and the y intercepts? So the x-intercept is the point where the line crosses the x-axis. So like right here would be the x-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. So today, the main thing that you're going to be looking for is the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And there is a specific way to do this. I want to say it's almost foolproof, but some of you will prove me wrong, and that's okay. I'll be keeping an eye on you. So the x-intercept is this point right here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I go over 8, up 0. When you find a coordinate, it's always going to be left, right, then up, down. It's different than slope, and I know we just did slope, so that might be confusing. The y-intercept right here, we go over 0. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up. So for the y-intercept, the x value is 0, and for the x-intercept, the y value is 0. And that's one thing to kind of keep in mind today. So here's going to be your steps. If you get stuck today, come back to here. This is where, if you get stuck, come here, and hopefully this will help you out. So to find your intercepts, and that's basically all you're doing today. You're going to be taking a look at equations, taking a look at equations here, taking a look at more equations, and then we'll talk about what that looks like on a graph. But mainly, you're going to be finding your intercepts using algebra today, solving for them. So to find the x-intercept of an equation, you're going to plug 0 in for y and solve for x. That's the main thing. When you are solving for the x-intercept, you only want x left over. So you're going to plug a 0 in for y. When you are finding the y-intercept, you are going to plug 0 in for x and solve for y. And if you solve for y, should be a little space there. But if you look here, when we found the x-intercept, there was a 0 for y. When we found the y-intercept, there was a 0 for x. So that's what you're going to be doing today. And this is going to lead us into kind of what we're going to do tomorrow when I'm back. I'm so excited. To kind of help you to be able to graph these. Because if you know the x-intercept and the y-intercept, you just have to plot those points. And I'm going to show you another way to kind of find those intercepts tomorrow as well. So like this little example here, and we're going to walk through some examples as well to kind of help you out. But this example right here, if you take a look, they want us to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of y equals 3x plus 6. So to find the x-intercept, we plug 0 in for y. So we plug 0 in for y, and we have 0 equals 3x plus 6. So to solve for x, or to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 6. 0 minus 6 is negative 6. And then we divide by 3. Negative 6 divided by 3, we have an x-intercept of negative 2. So your x-intercept is negative 2. Then to find the y-intercept, and these will all make sense as to why we're even doing this tomorrow, or even in a second. To find the y-intercept, we're going to plug a 0 in for x. So we have y equals 3 times 0 plus 6. So y equals 3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6. So we have a y-intercept of 6. So if I had to graph this, this is easier to graph. I think it's the easiest to graph in standard form, like this form right here, or finding the intercepts, than it is to use slope. It's just kind of another way to graph. So let's take a look at a couple more examples of how you're going to do this. I'm going to go through number 1 right here, and then we're going to flip to the next page, and we're going to walk through 4 and 5 because they're just 2 other different types, because those ones are in standard form. So for number 1, to find, I'll switch colors too to keep it interesting for you guys. So for number 1, if I wanted to find the x-intercept, I would be plugging a 0 in for y. So I'd have 0 equals negative x plus 5. So then I would subtract 5. You're just using your simple algebra skills. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. You cannot leave this as a negative x, so you have to divide by negative 1. Negative 5 divided by negative 1, you get a 5. So the x-intercept is 5. X-intercept is 5. Then to find the y-intercept, you're going to plug a 0 in for x because you only want y left over. So we have y equals negative 0 plus 5. Well, negative 0 is just 0, so 0 plus 5 is 5. So the y-intercept is 5. So hopefully you're thinking in your head like, this is not too bad. And I'm about to make it even easier. So let's flip to page 13. Page 13, and take a look at number 4. Now these ones are written a little differently. These ones are not in slope intercept form, but I think you're going to like them more in standard form than slope intercept form. I'll switch colors again to keep it interesting. So if I want to find the x-intercept, I'm going to plug a 0 in for y. So I have x minus 0 equals 2. Well, x minus 0 is just x. So the x-intercept is 2. And then if I want to find the y-intercept, I'm going to plug a 0 in for x. So I have 0 minus y equals 2. 0 minus y is just minus y or negative y. And you can't leave it as negative y, so you have to divide by negative 1. 2 divided by negative 1, you get y to equal negative 2. So the y-intercept is negative 2. So again, I'm plugging 0 in for y. This is where it might get a little confusing. When you're finding the x-intercept, you only want the x value as the variable that's left in your equation. So that's why you're plugging a 0 in there. When you're finding the y-intercept, you only want y left over as the variable. So that's why we're plugging it in right there. Let's take a look at number 5. And that will be the last one that I think I'm going to go over today. And then kind of we'll figure it out from there. So for number 5, if I want to find my x-intercept, I only want x left over. So I have 3x minus 2. I don't want the y, so I plug in a 0 equals 12. So I have 3x, negative 2 times 0. That whole chunk is gone. It's the best part. So you have 3x equals 12. And to solve that, you would divide by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So your x-intercept is 4. To find the y-intercept, now because you're finding y, you don't want x's anymore. So wherever you see an x, you're going to plug in a 0. So it says 3x, so we're doing 3 times 0 minus 2y equals 12. 3 times 0 is 0. That whole chunk is gone. So bring down the negative 2y equals 12. Divide by negative 2. 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. So basically the hard part today is just going to be making sure you know where to plug that 0 into. Are you finding the x-intercept? Are you finding the y-intercept? And just making sure you plug them in correctly. So I'll be keeping an eye on you guys and making sure you're plugging them in right. And then tomorrow we move on to the even more fun stuff. I can't wait to see you tomorrow.